Hello everyone and welcome to the last day of the AirThings Masters, or rather the last day of the preliminaries. It's the first game of day 4 and it's Eric Hansen versus Nepomniachtchi. You guys have been requesting a lot of Eric's games, and for good reasons. He's playing a great chess and he's having an excellent tournament, but there are simply too many players and I can't show all the games, but just to make up for it, I chose, I found a very nice photo of Eric, so at least there's that. So that being said, let's check it out. And as Nepo is currently leading the tournament, he's 7 full points. Like we said in the previous video, Nepo is 27 points, and Magnus Artemiev and Vincent Kammer are on 20 points. So he is the only one that's not really in any danger of not qualifying for the main event. So even if he loses all the games today, he's still in. So he played a spectacular tournament so far, but so has Eric. So let's see what happens in this game. Eric has the white pieces and he opens with e4. Jan goes for the Sicilian defense. We have c5, knight to f3, e6, and now Eric doesn't go for the open Sicilian, rather he goes for g3. He wants to fianchetto the bishop, and he will have the setup that, we discussed in a few of our previous videos, that you can pretty much play this setup against everything, and it also works against the Sicilian. So knight to c6 with bishop to g2, knight to f6, and now queen to e2. We defend our e4 pawn, and as white allowed it, black will execute the d5. We often say that if you allow black to play d5 in the Sicilian, then you no longer have the advantage. So here d5, e captures on d5, and now the position is a known one and it has been reached many times, but queen captures on d5 is not the move that is played here. Everyone plays knight captures on d5. Anand played it, Judith Polgar played it, a lot of very strong grandmasters played it throughout the years, but here we have queen captures on d5 by Nepo. And it is now already, as of move 6, that we have a completely new game. So let's see how Eric deals with this. Of course, knight to c3 can always win a tempo on the black queen, so you can play it right away. You can play it, later. It is just not a great square for the queen. Also, you are in front of the bishop, so if the knight moves, also your queen gets attacked. So here, Hansen just castles. We have bishop to e7 and rook to e1. Nicely continuing development. Nepo castles and b3 now. Still waiting with the development of the knight, preparing the fianchetto of the dark square bishop. Knight to d4 now, forcing some trades, attacking the knight and the queen. So knight captures, and now we have to capture with the queen as our queen is hanging. So queen captures on d4, knight to c3, and now rook to d8. And for some reason, a lot of you have been saying that there is no sound on the previous video, when there actually is, and then someone else wrote in the comments that you should just restart the video, so that brings the sound. So I don't know, maybe it's a YouTube issue, no idea why. But yeah, rook f to d8, and now rook to d1. We still need to defend this pawn before developing the bishop, because now it's attacked twice, so that's why rook to d1. We have e5 now, and here comes bishop to b2. And now both of the bishops are nicely fianchettoed. We have bishop to g4 attacking the queen, and you can't play f3. The f2 pawn is pinned, so here just bishop to f3. And you can't play bishop to h3, even though it could be a nice idea, as the b7 pawn is hanging. So here Nepo just trades. We have captures, and now e4, grabbing even more space, queen to e2, and now bishop back to f8. It will be a very nice defender here against this bishop. So d3, trying to get rid of this pawn and also open up our d file for the rooks. E captures on d3, rook captures, and now queen to b4. Rook a to d1, Eric doubles up on the d file, and now Nepo just trades. Rook captures on d3, rook captures, and rook to e8, and now both players have developed all of their pieces. So the queen is attacked, we have to move the queen f3, and now we have h6, so creating a little bit of a breathing room for the king, but also having ideas of knight h7, knight to g5 attacks the queen. These two squares might be a little bit weak as g3 was played. Also, you might have some ideas of bringing the rook into the attack, so this is Nepo's plan. So here king to g2, and now comes rook to e6, and it's a nice idea, although it doesn't work, and Eric finds a perfect way to show why it doesn't work. So feel free to pause the video and find the absolute best move for Eric here while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on realizing that black's back rank is now incredibly weak. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is rook to d8. That's the good stuff here, as now, well, this bishop cannot move, and not only that, what can black play? So that's the problem here. So congratulations to everyone who found this idea. You know, always remember what Josh Waitzkin used to say. What did he say? Sorry. He often spoke of the square left behind. And here, okay, it's not that the square is important, it's that the entire back rank was left behind. So that's why Eric seized it. And now what can black play? To give you an example, the b7 pawn is still hanging, but let's say you play something like b6. We're gonna play knight to e2, go after the rook here, and now let's say, okay, you can trade queens here, still knight f4 attacks the rook, and after, let's say, captures, it seems like black, figured everything out. But what do you do with the rook here? For example, rook to c6. If you put the rook somewhere weird, then we can even play bishop captures here and just completely mess up the black's pawn structure. Now comes c4, and look at this. It's a really bad position for black. The bishop here is a monster. The rook here incredible. The knight cannot move, otherwise knight is coming to d5, then to e7. Black is pretty much without moves here. So instead, after this rook to d8, we have queen to b6 by Nepo. But now he allows the other tactic, and that of course is rook to b8. Okay, the rook is attacked, we move it with tempo, but now how do you defend the b7 pawn here? You could play a rook to e7, but then knight d5 is very strong, forking the rook and the queen, and then after captures, queen captures, you get this position. But still, it's very unpleasant, and it's very similar to what actually happened in the game. After rook to b8, rook to c6 was played. Now, okay, you prevent the anything from capturing on b7, but now comes knight to d5. Okay, we have a trade here, a knight captures, and queen to c7 now, getting the queen into the game. But now bishop to e5, defending our rook here, so the queen has to move. We have queen to e7, and now c4. So very similar to the structure we mentioned, but now look at this. The rook still controls the back rank. The bishop is a monster on this diagonal. The white queen very nicely centralized, and black is really struggling to find the move here. So rook e6 attacking the bishop, just bishop to f4. We're still waiting to pick up the b7 pawn, and now rook to c6, just preventing the pawn from being captured, and now h4. Eric will now grab more space on the king side and the queen side before realizing his advantage. So here king h7. We have h5 here, and again, Nepo, without any real move here, tries g5. g5 is actually the strongest move recommended by the engine, so it's not just lashing out because you're struggling to find the move. It is a calculated risk that you absolutely have to take. So h captures on g6, en passant, king captures on g6, and now bishop to e5. Grabbing even more squares from black. So f6, and now bishop back to f4. But now you will play g4, you will gain control over f5, over h5, and it will be, well, very hard for black to find moves. So here we have bishop to g7, now comes g4. We have queen to e6, offering a queen trade, but Eric, of course, declines this. Queen to h5 check, king to h7, and now finally rook captures on b7. Now the black king is in a really terrible situation. Queen to e4 check, king to g3, and now again, it seems like you maybe got out of the worst, but let's say you play something, okay, let's say move the rook, open up and attack towards the white rook. Now we've reached the position from the thumbnail, and you can simply play queen captures on h6. The bishop is pinned. There's no capturing the queen. Once the queen moves, queen captures on g7 will be checkmate. So after king to g3, Nepo tried f5. Yes, now the rook defends the h6 square, but now we simply go into an endgame, and of course it's a winning one. You force a queen trade, queen captures on f5 with check, captures, king g8, and now rook captures on a7. And now you are up too much material, you are up 3 pawns. And it's merely a matter of time before Eric wins, but of course Nepo will try everything in order to prevent this. So here bishop e3, bishop c3, we have king to g4 now, bringing the king into the game. King f8, we have bishop to f4, now comes bishop to d4, again attacking the f2 pawn, bishop back to e3, bishop to c3, and now rook to d7. We have king to g8, Nepo can only wait and see what happens. Rook to d5 now, going after the pawn. and rook to a6, going after the a2 pawn. So Eric says, okay, we can trade. I have too much material anyway. Rook captures on a2. Now comes rook to b5, preparing to push the passed pawn. King to f7. Now comes rook b7 check, king to f6, and now rook to b6 check. We have king to f7, c5 now. The pawn is marching forward, rook to a1, and here we have rook captures on h6. And it was in this position on move 53 that Jan Nepomniachtchi resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. As you can see, white is just up 4 pawns, and it would be very silly to continue playing this. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Finally, we see. Well, I managed to cover a game by Eric. So hope you enjoyed this one. Even though there are so many great ones to choose from, a lot of you guys requested his win over Magnus, but that was a mouse slip. So I decided, maybe it wasn't the best game to show. It was a very early mouse slip at that. But yeah, very nice win against Nepo, really utilizing this position after rook to e6, because it's not easy. You can see that if knight h7, knight g5, it's already looking very good for black, but the weakness of the back rank was simply too much, and black's position just collapsed. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank David Kimura, Doug Reynolds, Ivan Sterling, PP Pupu, and Richard Schwartz for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of this spectacular event until it finishes. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.